one of the cool things about the game is that during the climax phase is the only time that you can actually be knocked out of the game or die or whatever.
Mhm.
And when you are reduced to 0 life points, you don't actually just die. You have the option of dying, like for good. Otherwise, you're just knocked out. You'll wake up later on and be back for the next game. But if you die, then like Kakyoin and JoJo, if you're familiar with his death scene, sorry, spoilers, but
I think it
when
was been 20 years, so I think it's cool.
um, and well, you should know this much about JoJo or much more anyway. But when Kakyoin is knocked into the water tower by Dio, and he's like, I gotta find out what Dio's secret is, and it's gouts of blood coming out of his mouth, and he's like,
4 liters, yeah.
that's what it is. He can stop time, and so then his last action is to give somebody that last bit of information, which turns everything around.
Yeah.
That's one of the options in Shinobigami is that. And I've had that happen in a game, and it's just as dramatic.
Yeah, it really is awesome. There's actually a specific rule as well, although we're kind of giving away. Well, it's not giving away everything. It's just there's so much packed into this. The rules. I mean, the rules are so thin, but there's so much stuff in there. But one of the other cool things that, again, talking to the author, it seems like a lot of these things he just came up with, like, oh, it would be cool if this kind of rule existed and this kind of rule, and just kind of put them together and then played it, and everyone just went like it's just someone's like, I'm gonna mix this and then this and then this and then I'm just gonna put it in the oven and come out of it, and like all of a sudden they got like some sort of like world changing cuisine. I'm just gonna throw some ingredients together and it comes out tiramisu. I think that's sort of what happened. But one of the other rules that is in the final conflict, you can get a massive one-time bonus to a roll. Like if it comes out to roll, like, oh man, everything is riding on this roll, you can get a big bonus to it by having a pause, like a timeout, and you basically narrate for just 10 seconds. It has to be just a quick flashback, but you basically narrate a flashback where one of your secrets is, or basically where your secret is revealed. Even if everyone at the table already has seen it and knows it, but you just say it how it impacts like the thing you're about to do right now, and then you can roll. And sometimes you don't succeed. Maybe sometimes you fail, and still it's just as much impact because there's that much drama in there.
Yeah, actually, and I ran a game for the One Shot podcast, and it should be starting up this month. I think in a couple days is when the first episode airs. But during the climax phase of that game, I used that to quite dramatic effect, and it was it's something to keep an ear out for. It was pretty awesome when it happened, and I don't want to say much more because it's really dramatic. So
yeah, and this one, unlike the other, unless Kakyoin's death is not 25 years old, so we'll keep spoilers in that one. Another element that comes up in Shinobigami that I kind of think about is a reality TV show aspect, which again is kind of weird to say. I actually hate reality TV show, but one thing that they do well is that the people that are voted off the island or whatever can often have some sort of influence on the show a little bit. Sometimes they're just narrating from the sides, but I remember, I guess one of the original Survivor gimmicks is that at the end, all the people that have been voted off the island until that point vote on the final winner, right? So if you had just been a dick and screwing everyone over to get your final, when you get to the end, if you were an outright dick and not like a manipulative, like happy friendly dick, then people will vote for the other person. Well, it's something a little bit like that can happen in Shinobigami as well. If you gear up your dude and then just kind of mash everyone without making friends, without making frenemies, right? This is a game about frenemies. What happens is when you form an emo bond with someone, they have the ability to give you a plus or a minus depending on what kind of relationship it is. And usually in each round, they can do that once per round. Or if it's in a combat round, they can do it once per combat round. So, for example, if you're fighting with someone and you've been making positive relationships that whole time, and everyone else has been knocked out of the fight, and the GM allows, they can or have not participated in the fight, they can put those like I'm going to roll this, and someone's like +1. or you roll and you miss by one, and then someone can be like +1 and can make you succeed. Or if you've been a jerk to everyone, you have negative relationships, they can -1 you. So there is that little bit of aspect as well. I've seen people go like, in fact, one of my favorite stories is, my buddy Eric, who is he's the rules talker. He helps games with people problems. He quickly grasps all the rules and sub rules and sort of imminent behavior before it even happens on the table. And he looked at Shinobigami. He played a few times, and he's like, "Next time we play, I'm gonna win." And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds like a challenge." So we played, and again with the friends that I often played with, and he made a character, and he made a build using skills and some Nimpo, some of the special abilities and stuff like that, that made it such that it was very hard to defend what he was going to do to other people, and give him very versatile powers. And he immediately made a beeline for the prize. However, I knew I was anticipating that, and not to be a jerk to him, but I did have him give him a secret that basically had positive, like, or at least like a little bit of a positive relationship with someone else. But he's like, "Okay, I see that, but I'm gonna get the prize." So he got the prize, and he's like, and he's like punching dudes down, stuff like that. And at the end of the game, when it came down to like him versus someone else, he ended up losing because everyone kept giving him minuses while giving the other person pluses. And then also what he realized was at the end, when all the secrets came out, like 2 of the people he'd been hitting on the whole time were actually on his side. But since he just made a beeline for the prize and didn't learn, like, I'm not making friends, I'm here for the win, since he did that, he didn't realize that actually if he'd watched and paid attention, that other people were actually helping him and supporting him. But he was like, push on those people. And that sort of, like, I guess, reality TV show, or just sort of that player manipulation. Manipulation's a too strong word, but you know what I mean. That sort of, stoking relationships and stuff like that happens in the game too. To rules effect. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think that manipulation is kind of the most accurate word, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of the ninja clans is actually specifically built for manipulating the other player characters, and finding out secrets and guarding your own. So I thought that was a really cool thing about them.
Yeah. One thing I mentioned, so people, and I guess early on I was saying, like, I was trying to describe it to my game friends who are into story games and stuff like that, and they're like, "Well, what's the play like?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's kind of like a German board game meets Fiasco." And later on, I mean, that falls apart quickly. But one thing people will do is they'll look at it and they'll understand the game and they'll say, "Oh, it's kind of like Fiasco." Not really. The one thing it does share is the fact that because there is a GM and stuff like that. You can play it GM-less, but it's a little bit harder. But there is a GM, and the GM sort of creates a scenario in that they create the interlocking relationships of secrets and hand them to the players, and then basically help facilitate the rest of the game. But the thing that people look at is the fact that it's very scene structured. Again, you have an introductory round where all the players at the table go around once and introduce the game, or where you just kind of like say, like, what does my character look like? What are they doing on their days off, sort of thing. And maybe the GM has someone appear and then gives them a mission, right? Or tells them, that's where they get their secret. Then play begins. Everyone goes around once, doing one thing per scene, going around twice, going around 3 times. And while the person whose turn it is creates the core of that scene, they don't hand it off to others for resolution. They sort of set it up, start to navigate it, and that's when the other things happen. That's when other players can jump in, and the GM can have things happen. But it does go, instead of like Fiasco's round 4 times an epilogue, it goes around 3 times, and then finally there is a massive WWE style SmackDown where everyone shows up, no matter what is happening in the drama. Thunder and lightning fills the skies, and there's an empty lot, and everyone just kind of walks towards the middle, and that's when the final showdown happens, no matter what's been going on to that point. And then the winner of the final showdown walks away usually with a prize in their hand, or not necessarily. They might have a completely different other goal. So with the modern story-focused games, it shares the aspect of scenes, like the creation of scenes, and everyone gets a number of rounds and stuff like that. And it creates a pace which basically starts and ends a story within 3 to 4 hours, depending on how much the players actually know about the game. If the players all read the game and they know, and they come and sit down and they're ready to play, you can knock it out in maybe 3, even 2 hours. But if you're having to teach the rules and kind of go over them and play, it's usually around 3 to 4 for the first session. So there's that sort of pacing mechanism, but it was completely formed in a different culture with no like even though I'm over here in Japan now teaching my friends how to play games like Fiasco and Archipelago and other sort of hippie story games. It was completely independently formed for this line of games. Yeah.
So, Andy, if this is obviously it's a Japanese game with with anime style art or manga style art. If you're going to compare this to an anime, what would be the closest approximation in your opinion?
So the immediate things jump to mind are things like Naruto and Ninja Scroll and stuff like that, but they don't really fit. It's sort of unique. In fact, I want to throw that question back to you. I would say that because of the fact that there's twists and turns, it quickly starts and then quickly wraps up. People who appear to be enemies become friends, and the reverse. It's almost more like a Jason Bourne style, like espionage or like Cold War thriller.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like a Cold War thriller with changing alliances, and often a prize. Right in the Cold War dramas, the prize is the briefcase with the KGB code.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This can be the exact same way. In fact, all you have to do really is like set it in like post World War II Berlin and give everyone fedoras, and you've got a Cold War game. Replace the Nimpo with KGB/CIA training techniques. So I don't really. But when the combat happens, and the Nimpo and combat skills appear, that it becomes like a really wild, flashy fighting anime, probably something like Kill la Kill, with less weirdness. What about you? What do you think about when or like anime or media that comes to mind when you think about Shinobigami?
Well, I've definitely had players that brought the weirdness. So I've had games that were just like Kill la Kill, but like you were saying, like the different twists and turns, and and you don't know who exactly is on your side, and you're trying to find out people's secrets so that you can use it against them. I think that it's like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I think is really close.
Yeah, I can see
Takyoin,
that.
He appears and they fight, and then it turns out that his secret was that he was being controlled or whatever. So they gain a new ally, and there's it, and the fact that they just in this game everybody has something called an Ohgi. It's your most ultimate final super attack or technique, and you must not let anybody see it until you're ready to use it to win. And that's kind of like the basis for like the later JoJo games, or the JoJo manga and anime, where they're trying
to figure out exactly.
What is the boss's stand? What is it? Because if we don't know what his stand is, you're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
And there's a really heavy element of that in Shinobigami. But also, like, if you've ever seen like Basilisk, where there's like a really humongous, it's like a really wide range of ninja tropes. Those are all in here. Anybody from Basilisk, you can make a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character in this game. I've ran games of this
with JoJo.
As JoJo, and it was perfect. It was super cool. You can make characters like a Strider Hiryu from Strider. It's just, and it works perfectly. You give him the animal companion trait along with engineering, and then you have your robot cat or whatever. And it's so cool. Like, you can literally make whatever ninja / jump shown in manga whatever character you want to make.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
I think the Ohgi really sets it apart too. The fact that you have this one skill that, like, okay, the Ninpo are defined very strictly in the book because they are the things that you use to fight other people with. So they have to be really well defined. Otherwise, they can't be because that's sort of the Germany rule aspect. The skills are kind of defined in what they can do, although always with the skills more than the Ninpo is if you can kind of squint and kind of see, like, if you can narrate something well and set it up so that you can use a skill for a particular thing, you can use it. But the Ohgi is where things shine. The Ohgi is basically where, and Ohgi, as you mentioned, means like ultimate art or whatever for the, someone looks at their sheet and they pick one of these categories of Ohgi. Like it might be a critical strike where they basically blow one person away, or like they hit everyone, like they don't, or they come back to life, or things like that. And you get to define what it looks like. You define what it feels like in play. You get to find the name of it, which you have to yell when you do it. Ultimate shining messianic strike. So that aspect does that kicks out the Naruto-ish feeling bits of the game. But yeah, you're right, and it does share a lot in common with JoJo, especially from Starlight Crusaders on, where most of the they encounter a new person. The new person's beating them up. They don't know why. Eventually, they find out what the person's secret and or ultimate technique is, and then they can finally overcome them. And Shinobigami, as we keep mentioning the PvP aspects of it, but you can play it a straight players versus one antagonist. Although it's usually a little bit of combination of both is best. There's one antagonist, however, at the end there's still a prize that someone's going to walk away with. So what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. But yes, in fact, each of the episodes, like when they're fighting the illusion gorilla and when they're fighting Oingo Boingo and all that, each one of those is a session of Shinobigami, and then after which play goes on with the same characters to the next one, but where they're finding and exploring new secrets and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that really works well.
Yeah. So right. What drew you to the game?
Me. So Shinobigami appeared at a time where I was following religiously blogs about games and things like that from Japan. So I was constantly aware of what's coming out, even though I didn't know what it was because at that point I was still living in the US. And so when something came out, I would kind of put it in my Amazon box, and eventually when 4 or 5 games stacked up, I would have them shipped over. Or if I was going to Japan next, because I usually went about once a year to see my family. My wife's from Japan. And when I came across it, actually my reasons are very similar to yours, so I'll probably let you talk about that longer. But it was just in very, very brief, it was the form factor of the book, which we'll show. Actually, why don't we show it right now? This is Shinobigami. This is actually the original version, not the revised one.
Here's the revised one here.
Yeah, very same cover, just slightly different. I like the red, bloody,
I like that
bit
too.
better. So we're going to do that for the English, and we're actually going to keep the same, or at least similar form factor. It might be about an inch taller, or inch wider, definitely a little bit wider because of the language concerns. Japanese is written top to bottom, so this format kind of works. English is more left to right, so it has to be a little bit wider. Otherwise, the page counts are going to be really wildly different. But to show the audience here, they can see this is the front of the book. This white pages are the front of the book, and the black pages are the back of the book. And you can see that it's about 2/3 white to 1/3 black. And what that is the white section is a replay. And we've talked about replays before, but so just to kind of quickly show people, it is sparsely illustrated. Usually we see as people make their characters, they'll have character sketches and stuff like that. But basically a replay is not a complete 100% manga, but it is a text like screenplay format of a session that actually happened, usually with the author of the game and other kind of quote unquote famous players. And it starts with everyone sitting down to the table, introducing themselves in person, and then talking about the characters they're making. Then it goes into play. And you can see here that, well, you can't read Japanese, but you can see that there's definitely this text at the top and there's text at the bottom. And the text at the top is basically them playing. They're talking in character. The GM is saying things in character. Everyone else, their names are listed as their character names, and they're talking sometimes outside of character, sometimes inside of character. It's not like only what their character says; it's what the player is saying. But you notice that there's some bolded areas, and those bolded areas become notes at the bottom because it's explaining, like someone's like, I'm going to make a blankety blank roll. And at the bottom it says, this person meant this kind of roll. And to do that, they roll this and this. And you can, and the thing is, this is an actual role-playing session that was really well done. It's an interesting story. And on top of that, it kind of shows you a blueprint. Like if you've never played an RPG before and you pick this up, it shows you how to play a role-playing game. And in fact, like it is, you can kind of see, like, where is it? The kakorai right there. This is the kanji for laugh. So basically this is an LOL. And they have them all over the place because these are, the players are talking and sometimes they're cracking jokes on the side, just like we do in normal campaigns. They probably, they left pretty much everything in as is. Maybe someone told an off joke that they didn't include, but for the most part, it's not one person just saying, I'm going to invent this 4-person replay. This was a replay. Someone recorded it and then went home and transcribed it. So you read it and you're like, you see them having fun. You actually see them, how they come to address all the little challenges and stuff that happens in the role playing. They have little illustrations that show you exactly like when the battles happen, where people are. And then it goes all the way to the end and conclusion. And then once you get that and you're like, if you're a Japanese kid who picked this up somewhere at the mall and you read this, you just kind of picked up by accident because you like the cover. You read this experience, and you're like, this is kind of cool. And then at the very end, the last third of the book shows you very briefly and dramatically, and concisely, I should say, not so much dramatically as concisely, how to do the thing that you just read. And that is incredible. That's sort of the gimmick of this small book format series called Dice Fiction that this company does. It's very different from their other games, which were big books, just like in the US or other countries. So it was initially the form factor. I looked at it and said, oh, it's a replay? And I looked at it, wait, no, it's a game too. And that was a big thing. And then the cover, which we'll probably gush about in a moment, were the two things that appealed to me. And of course, ninjas, right? Who doesn't like ninjas? Well, some people don't, but I'm not one of them. So.